Everybody, can we change the future? Is it within us, you, me, to really change the future? Some people say change the weather. I really like that statement. Can we change the weather? There are some people that just live through the days, and some people that actually change the weather that the rest of us feel. Wouldn't it be nice at the end if we said, we actually changed the weather? We made something better. No, not divisive, not created more critical review and critical analysis and critical judgment of other people, but actually changed the weather for the better. That's the hope of what we want to do. We know, in relation to change, at least I know, that there's two aspects that fundamentally are involved with any type of change, and that's the word different. To do and make something different. To look at something today and make it different tomorrow with the hope that that tomorrow is better because of what we've done. I don't think that we look at, as a whole, I don't think we look at change in that manner. I think we often think that changing something, addressing some issue, is perfectly suitable to the future. Yes, change may occur, but is it change for the better? And so when I look at change, when I focus on change, I have the saying that says we're only limited by the dream of a better world and the determination to make it come true. I think that better world comment is what we have to spend more of our time on. Change for the sake of change isn't necessarily change that we want, nor change that we need. We need change that makes the world a better place. It means we have to consciously go into an issue, a problem, a circumstance, a scenario, and understand what we want to achieve by what we're doing, and then have the determination to make it come true. So it's not just the change that we need to reference on, it's the type of change and how that change is going to make something better. So I use this word better a lot. The dream of something better. Change is about something different, so something better that's different. Something different that's going to make it better and have the determination to make it come true. How do we do that? Can we do that? Of course we can do that. History is full of individuals, some of whom we may not know their name, but we know their deeds. We know what they've done. We have followed in their footsteps. They changed the weather that we now enjoy. Again, we may not know their names, but we know what they've done. Thankfully, we experienced at a later date some of the challenges and barriers that they foresaw in their path, but yet they continue to move forward to make something different. Change is certainly an aspect of life that we see on a continual basis. It's a statement that we make in business, though it's kind of a statement that is intuitive. It makes sense. We often don't need to make it. For instance, there's new razors that come out that we shave with. That's a change. There's different types of food, different types of seasonings that come out. That's a change. We get a new car, a new job. Those are major changes, but even minor changes, from a new piece of clothing or a new necklace, some new hairstyle. We have been and continue to be humans with the thirst to drive a hunger for change. With change, the only thing we don't like is the change that's forced upon us that doesn't benefit us. So when we talk about change, really is about differences, key point. The second aspect is we like any and every change that doesn't negatively impact us. I've said so many times, in all my years in business, I've never heard somebody say, you gave me a tremendous raise, but I'm really upset about the way that you did it. You didn't communicate it with me. Never had that. Never. I've never seen someone get promoted to a job that they've always wanted and said, I'm just not happy about the process that we went through in order for me to be promoted. Change that benefits is a change that we desire. Change that does not benefit is one that we're going to resist. But in general, there's 4 reasons we seek change. And one is that something doesn't work. It's often not controversial, but something doesn't work. Your car is broken down. There's a medicine that you're taking that's ineffective. We're going to change that because medicine is effective. In fact, when we look at quite possibly the area that has changed our lives the most, it's healthcare. Had we had the healthcare in the 1950s, many of us wouldn't be here today. In fact, some of the pandemics that we've went through, had that pandemic happened some years ago, there could have been mass casualties. It didn't happen with the last pandemic. So, change is a good thing. We've benefited from change in relation to medicine. So, if something doesn't work, we're going to make it work. If something doesn't exist, this is a change too. Again, non-controversial. This could be, in some cases, feared by some. Even though it's not controversial, it could be feared by some because it could destroy entire industries. I talk about the aspect of ATMs, automatic teller machines. Most people don't know what ATMs stand for. That's how long that acronym has been in play. But we used to have tellers that you used to go into a bank and you would give them your money or take their money. They were called tellers, bank tellers. Now many of them don't have a job because most of our business in relation to banking is done either online or through some kind of teller machine. We've moved from malls to online shopping. Online shopping is anywhere from 10 to 20% of our businesses today. We don't go into a mall as much as we used to. We don't eat much together anymore. We also don't want to work together much anymore. Some of the changes are not beneficial to our society. That's something for another discussion. But when something doesn't work and we create technology to make it work, it often is one that can be destructive to the human condition. It benefits us as consumers, but not necessarily as workers. This includes the movement from trains to cars, greatly benefited us, allowed us to seek so many areas of the country we wouldn't be able to do. From typewriters to computers, it's hard to find a typewriter much anymore. From radios to films. Radios used to be the dominant form. Now films are the most dominant form. Films also includes television. People don't write letters anymore. In some of my seminars or discussions, I often ask people, when's the last time you actually wrote a letter? Letter? Yeah, I wrote a letter and sent it to somebody with a stamp. We don't even exchange Christmas cards much anymore. We send emails. Entire industries are destroyed when something doesn't exist, and you want to make something that does exist. Of course, science and technology are the forefront of this change. These are innovations that have advanced our standard of living, but similarly has undermined the stability of a somewhat orderly society. We got used to using typewriters, used to listening to the radio, used to writing letters. And now we've made a change that has disrupted, in some ways, entire industries, for the good in some cases, for the bad in others. The third reason for change, and it becomes a bit more controversial, is where something can work better. We know what we have, but we can make it better. Some of these aren't controversial. For instance, we used to have an iPod, and then you had a telephone. Now we've created them together with an iPhone. Well, some people have lost their jobs, but we have a better device. We don't need a device to listen to music and a device to use as a telephone. We can combine them. DVDs and Netflix. We used to have to go down and purchase or rent a DVD or get it through the mail. Now, all we have to do is push a button on the television. I'm old enough to remember when we couldn't even watch a movie online. You would have to go get a tape, and then you'd have to return it with a day or two or three, and you would get these dreaded late charges. Now, you just have to push a button, and the movie shows on television. In fact, we don't have DVDs anymore. Great for the environment. We don't have DVDs anymore. So if you want to watch a movie, you just flip through your TV screen. You don't have to go and find DVDs. In fact, if you were to look at homes 10 and 20 years ago, maybe not that long, you'd see these racks of DVDs. It used to almost be a point of pride. Look at all the DVDs I have. Some things that work better are a bit more controversial. Diet Coke is one of my favorites. As a Diet Coke drinker, great. But they found that many people didn't want to buy a product that had the word diet in it. So now they've come up with Coke Zero. The movement from Diet Coke to Coke Zero is moving at an escalated pace. But there are some people that still claim Diet Coke is better. Coke Zero is a bit different flavor, not that much more. The hope was it would not only take the place of Diet Coke for those people who don't want the word diet, but also another alternative. That's why some people still drink Diet Coke. Some people now drink Coke Zero. They've expanded their market with this product. The key lesson is that your competitive edge, which is the length of time that a product or service dominates the market, is increasingly short. In the era of science and technology, it's becoming even shorter. Once you create a product or a service that enters into the market, it's only going to dominate that market for a brief period of time. And then others are going to see that and say, hey, I want a slice of that market as well. And the last primary reason for change is what we call something different. This is more controversial. This is the greater need to think and be and act different than someone else. Here, you contradict culture because it requires citizens in relation to culture. Culture requires citizens to adhere to some kind of social contract. When you want something different, you're saying, I don't like that social contract. I want something different. I don't want to live in the weather that you created. So there's 4 reasons to change. It doesn't work, or it doesn't exist. Or, if it does exist, now it can work better. But if it can't work better, we want something entirely and totally different. The movement from gas-powered vehicles to battery-powered vehicles. That is something different. That is going to eliminate, or not, at least severely reduce the current market that we have in relation to cars and create a brand new market, which is through some type of battery or electric. There are some truisms about change. Change is a natural part of life. We've talked about that. It comes really from this insatiable quest to think, be, and act differently. It's hard to find people who have the same name that spell their name the same. Think about that for a second. Most people want their name to be spelled differently. It is problematic for a culture that is trying to live together. We all don't have to think, act, and be the same, but we have to have some commonalities that allow us to work and live together. That seems to be fading to some extent. Very few people, as mentioned earlier, want to eat together, work together, even live together. The percentage of people living alone continues to increase. In fact, we really don't want to talk to people. Especially with the younger generation, they'd rather receive a text than a phone call. Even with my kids, when they text and I call, they go, why'd you call me back? And I say, well, I wanted to talk to you, but that's why I texted you. And it's not that they don't want to talk to me, but you get the point is that they're so used to not having these conversations. We now are seeing, as we study the labor market, that individuals leaving high school and college aren't prepared for the human interaction with somebody else on a face-to-face basis. Hence the push to have more remote work. But even if you work remotely, there's instances where you have to communicate, connect with other people. This can be problematic. Change viewed as advantageous is always welcome. Show somebody how they're going to benefit, and they're always welcome to change. When I talk about change management, change strategies, processes and procedures associated with change, I often talk about make sure people know how it's going to benefit them. If they know how it's going to benefit them, maybe not short term, but maybe long term, maybe not long term, but maybe short term, if you can show that they're going to benefit, they're going to be much more embracing of just about any change that you have. Change favors those that adapt. Third, I always talk about this assess and adapt, the 2 A's, assess and adapt. Assess the present, adapt to the future. Change is inevitable, and we need to adapt to a different future. Unless we stop science and technology, it's impossible for change not to occur. And if we do want some aspects of change to stop, then it's very difficult not to change other aspects of change. For instance, medicine, education. Change favors those who think differently, the explorers and the inventors, those with what we call natural curiosity. They create the future. Greatness seldom follows the same path. Walking along the same road that others has walked doesn't expose a person to new adventures doesn't expose them to new opportunities. That comes from walking a different path than the one that came before you. It's that constant ask of what if. And lastly, change favors those who control their destiny. Control is a huge word for me. People want to have control in their life. They want to control where they're going, what they want to be, what they become. But if we accept our responsibility to live our own life, if we accept that there's challenges that every person has, if we accept that we must do something differently ourselves if we want a different future, I often say everybody has something they wish they didn't have. The key is to make the best of what you do have. If we were to talk about my life or your life or our parents' life, the key is it's always what you make of what you have. We wish we didn't have these things, but I'm going to make the most of what we have. There's some other saying that I have is, we may not get the cards we want, but we've got to play the cards we get. Pretty good statement. Change may be inevitable, but failure is not. Failure is not. Because dreams may be worthwhile, but they're worthless unless we achieve them. Now we move on to how we can change the future. Remembering, dreams may be worthwhile, but they're worthless unless you achieve them. I often tell people, spend less time dreaming and more time doing. We need to dream, but we need to do too. There's many ideas that never see the light of day because they remain ideas. Turn your ideas into actions and you have a better chance of what? Changing the weather. 4 aspects that I would concentrate on in order to change the weather, change the future. Dreams and determination, we'll talk more about that, but also taking a chance and making a difference. These 4 aspects will change just about any environment that we have. First is dreams. Dreams are the beacons that illuminate the future. I like that statement. Dreams are the beacons that illuminate the future. They make the future come alive. They answer the question, what if? What can be? What should be? What will be? Through dreams, our future is determined. And if achieved, our fate is realized. Our destiny is achieved. Change always starts with the dream, but it doesn't end with hope. Change always starts with the dream, but it doesn't end with hope. It ends through hard work and resolute determination to make others believe in your future and your ability to achieve it. Dreams is very quickly followed by what we know of determination. Determination. Most are really taught to go along to get along. It's how one attracts applause and appreciation. Yes, I agree with what you're saying. It's sitting in an audience and clapping the presenter instead of being the presenter yourself. Our culture often restricts conduct and confines ambition. There's all kinds of barriers, impediments, ridicules, ostracisms, and there's tools to enforce this compliance. We're going to ostracize you from this community or this friend group. But determination is that singular common trait that defines the mythical leaders of our history. When you look at those people whose names litter the history books, it's those people who have the determination to make something come true. We hope that something is something that bettered our world, as we talked about earlier. But they had the determination so that women can vote, so that there was equal rights, so that people have an ability to make a living, that people have an ability to raise their standard of living. Those who spend their time improving what I call the human conditions are the ones that are in some ways mythical in their approaches. They change the world, define the weather, by defying the odds and standing alone against the masses. And yes, risking failure that invites scorn and criticism, even hate. Quote that I could like quite a bit says, what separates the courageous from the cowardly, the winners from the losers, the good from the bad, and the consequential from the insignificant, is the determination to take a stand on something that matters. I wrote that in one of my books some years ago. What separates the courageous from the cowardly, the winners from the losers, the good from the bad, and the consequential people from the insignificant, is a determination to take a stand on something that matters. Not just determination, but determination to take a stand on something that matters. And taking a stand. Some have had change thrust upon them, like Winston Churchill, who, years before he became Prime Minister, did not think that World War II would occur. Or if it did occur, it wouldn't be as dramatic and drastic of a change to our very way of life that it became. Others have changed that arose from an often timid world. Nelson Mandela fought against terrible tyranny in his country for many years. He fought against it when others didn't fight. There was many other people who could have stood up like Nelson Mandela and didn't. He did. Same with Margaret Thatcher. Over the years, Great Britain had slid to become almost a third-rate country at one time. She thought it was inconceivable that the country of her past could have fallen so far. She thought she'd change it. Both had this passion and fortitude, which are essential in an often lonely world where few stand up and many see the chance to take an opportunity to make something better. The opportunity's there, but too few take it. At some point, though, the time comes and the chance presents itself, and thereafter the battle is waged. Finally, making a difference. Too many spend more than they saved, use more than they made, take more than they gave. They made a life, but they didn't make a difference, and that disappointment and regret haunts them. As we age, as we now understand that we have fewer years in front of us as opposed to those behind us, we often look back and said, I wish I did this, or I could have done that. That's what causes what we often call a midlife crisis, when we realize we haven't done as much as we could have. Change, in fact, involves making something better, teaching others to read, saving the environment, sheltering the homeless, feeding the hungry, helping the disabled to walk, curing the sick. Or, we often forget this. We often think that we have to spend so much of our time with those who have greater challenges than ourselves, or maybe be more unfortunate. My uncle, my dad's brother, was in a wheelchair for 60 years of his life. Terrible way to live a life. We want to make that person better. But one way we can make so many better is by offering opportunities, jobs, helping somebody in their career to advance themselves and advance their standard of living. We need to take a chance to make a change, and that change really can make a difference. Because as I mentioned about as we age, in the dawn of life we strive to make a living. In the twilight of life we hope to make a difference. As we're younger, we're worried about paying rent or paying the mortgage or getting a job or a better job, this job or that job. But as we age, as we advance in our years, we start to realize that we really want to make a difference. The term again, we want to change the weather. Who are those that change the weather, that make a difference? Those that live their own life, not somebody else's life. Your opinion of yourself that rests in the opinion of someone else is a terrible place to be. Live your own life. Dream your own dreams. Develop your own talents. And doing those three, follow your own ambitions. If you can do that, and along the way, if you can fight the good fight, if you do the right thing at the right time and for the right reasons, and you make the most of the road that you travel, then greatness is in your grasp. And I'll close with something I said some minutes earlier, which is, we may not get the cards we want, but we have to play the cards we get. Those who make the most of the cards that they get are often the ones at the end that look back and say, not bad. Not bad at all. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy the day.